watching the Morning Express and cutting straight across to pictures that we are continuing to get from the ASEAN-India summit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, of course, who's in Jakarta to attend the summit, has spoken about how India views ASEAN as the central pillar of India's Act East policy. The Prime Minister, in his opening remarks, has underscored the importance of a free Indo-Pacific. We will, of course, play out that opening remark of the Prime Minister for you in just a bit. But let's first go across to our senior executive editor, Abhishek Kapoor. Abhishek, good morning. Abhishek, the Prime Minister in his opening remarks, in a sense, underscoring the importance of a free Indo-Pacific. Now, this is a statement that obviously gains a lot of importance at the back of, things that we have seen coming from China in terms of the newly released map, as well as, the decision of the Chinese President Xi Jinping not to come for the G20 summit. So how do you view that comment from the Prime Minister?
Well, I would say Indo-Pacific is, of course, increasingly gaining a lot of salience in India's diplomacy. And whatever China has done over the last 1 week, from Xi Jinping absenting himself from the G20 summit to the intemperate, undiplomatic, wolf warrior kind of comments made by the Chinese ambassador in Kathmandu. The fact of the matter is, India-ASEAN relationship by itself is very significant. ASEAN, the Association for Southeast Asian Nations 10-member body, is India's second largest trading partner. It is strategically located around the Malacca Straits, is a window to the Pacific and by the global sea trade. Almost 2/3 of global sea trade passes through this region, and the ASEAN happens to be second largest trade partner. So there is centrality of ASEAN to not just Act East, in fact, but to our overall geopolitical vision. And that's why in a measure of the kind of significance we attach, underscoring the importance that ASEAN has, Prime Minister really, in between all the busyness about organizing the G20 summit as hosts in New Delhi, Prime Minister has still traveled to Jakarta and to participate in the ASEAN in the ASEAN summit. Also, the fact that even ASEAN, for example, they tweaked their sketch in a manner that they could accommodate Prime Minister Modi's presence, and that really gives you an idea of the two-way traffic of mutual understanding that exists between the two sides, and that perhaps got reflected in, and that indeed got reflected in the opening comments made by Prime Minister. He will be participating in other sessions as well. And it's likely that there might be, incidentally, this is the first India-ASEAN summit happening after the two sides upgraded their relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership. Just another measure of importance that the Modi government has attached to ASEAN. We know those pictures from 2018 and 2017, I believe, when the entire ASEAN leadership was invited as chief guests during the Republic Day parade, which is the biggest diplomatic honor India bestows every year on their important friends. So I think this is the backdrop in which the India-ASEAN summit is happening. ASEAN happens to be a 10-nation grouping in the southeast of Asia, and of course, the members, which includes Malaysia, Indonesia being the host this time, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Brunei, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, and Cambodia. And each of them otherwise also are very significant players in the region. And also remember, Nupur, this summit is happening in the backdrop of the recent map that was introduced by the Chinese, which has understood across the board. So I think a lot of discussion on that. Maybe there might be a joint statement, or joint statement might reflect that. It would be interesting to watch out happens in the next couple of hours.
Abhishek, before we let you go, one very quick comment on the Chinese Premier Li Qiang's comment, yesterday, where he said that we need to avoid a new Cold War when dealing with conflicts between countries, as world leaders, of course, are gathering over here. Quick comment on that.
Well, if he really means that, the Chinese never mean what they say, if Li Qiang really means what he said, the Chinese have to start behaving. The Chinese have to start behaving as if they are a responsible member of the Committee of Nations. So they have to start behaving as if they really mean that there should be no Cold War. The kind of comments that came in from the Chinese ambassador in Kathmandu, for example, are an example of a diplomat gone rogue. And if this is the conduct of their diplomats, and obviously this is coming with some sanction from Beijing, the manner in which the Chinese have conducted themselves in Ladakh, and the manner in which they have come out with this map, obviously Li Qiang thinks the world is a bunch of buffoons, which obviously they are not. And perhaps that's why I said that despite the presence of Li Qiang, and if the Chinese are so clean, why is Xi Jinping not attending the ASEAN summit? Why is Xi Jinping not really participating in G20 and contributing as a responsible member of the grouping? So obviously they have something to hide, and that's why they say something, they do something else. Absolute double-speak, and that's why I said maybe there might be something on the new map that the Chinese have released might get reflected in the joint statement that comes out of the ASEAN summit.
Right, Abhishek, thank you very much for joining us on the broadcast right now. Even as we look at these pictures that we are getting from the 20th ASEAN-India summit, the Prime Minister has spoken about how India essentially wants to focus on ASEAN countries as part of its Look East policy. We step into a very short break. On the other side, we bring you more. Stay with us.